The 6 to 7 Figure Show, episode 86. Ready? Let's
Broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun outside Phoenix, Arizona. This is the 6 to 7 Figure Show. Tired of working so hard and having no time? Take your six-figure practice and turn it to a thriving seven-figure enterprise. And now, your host, author, speaker, mentor, and strategist, Frank Bria.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I'm your host, Frank Bria, and in today's episode, we are going to talk about success. But first, a quick message from our sponsor. This episode of the 6 to 7 Figure Show is brought to you by High Ticket Program. Did you know that you're only 12 projects away from turning your six-figure practice into a thriving seven-figure enterprise? In the High Ticket Program Accelerator, we guide you through every step of growth and scale, a process we call LEAP. Imagine having a world-class project team guiding you and your team through each and every step of pain-free growth, all with the goal of becoming a seven-figure enterprise and moving away from painful, time-consuming business operations and client delivery. Get a taste of LEAP in your own business by downloading our free high-ticket program core offer Black Book. It contains more than 60 pages of standard operating procedures for your business, including onboarding, customer service, graduation, financial management, and a lot more. You can get that for free by going to the show's homepage at 6to7.show. That is 6to7.show for your free Black Book. And I am absolutely pleased to be introducing today's guest. Anthony Trucks is with me. He's a former NFL athlete, American Ninja Warrior, speaker, author, and coach who helps make success their second nature. Anthony, thanks so much for being with us on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. You're good at what you do. Pro. I like the pros, and you're a pro, my friend. I like it.
I appreciate that. So success is something everyone chases, man. So what are as you look at a lot of people who are moving towards success or maybe not moving as quickly towards success, are there some key differentiators that you see from the people who can really own it and go after it, and the folks who it kind of slips through their grasp?
Yeah. I mean, one of the big things is defining what success is to you. The biggest thing that like my clients run into is I want success. What's success? I don't know. No, I need you to verbally tell me what success is to you, because my version of success could be far different from yours. I speak, but my version of success is sitting at home as much as I can and getting the stages I want. Whereas some people, their success is get on 1 million stages this year, right? Yeah. So I think that first defining what success means to you, and then from there, which is where I have success be your second nature. It's how do I get you to fall in love with the journey, not just the destination? And that's more of how do I get you to operate in flow? I call it effortless effort. To where you're given an effort level, but somebody else says, holy crap, how are you doing that? It looks like it's so hard, but you're like, no, it's just my normal Wednesday. And when I can get you to do those things, you'll find that that's where success becomes your second nature. It's an identity thing.
And I want to hit on the identity thing in a second, because you talk about identity shift coaching as your practice. So I want to get into that, but the thing that you mentioned about the journey versus the destination being the point, I think that's something that not a lot of people fully appreciate, because we're such a goal-oriented kind of group of folks, like as a society, right? So we set this thing way out there, right? And everyone tells people, dream big, set these amazing, huge goals. And yet, it may take us a long time to get there. And it's almost like there's no reward, between here and there. And that's a long time to go without
success.
Without having any feeling of accomplishment along the way. So I love that you focus on the journey piece.
We have to. I used to own a gym years ago, and the fitness portion was a place I could see it come to life in real life.
Sure.
Those who set a goal for 20 pounds and every day we're comparing their 20 pounds to where they're at now. It's like, well, I'm not there. Right. But those who said, hey, I lost a pound today. I lost 2 pounds today. They reached 20, and they had a lot better journey there. I think of like this metaphor. If I'm traveling from here to, I'm in America, I'm going to travel to, Europe. And, on the way to Europe, all of a sudden, I'm going to this beautiful hotel, but I leave my house and I'm late, and then I miss my flight, and then the flight attendant throws up on me, and then there's some kid crying the whole time, and I land and I get taken to the wrong airport because the taxi didn't, whatever it is. You don't show up at your hotel and say, beautiful hotel, yay. You're like, whatever, you're still in a bad mood.
Right.
However, if you have an amazing journey, flights on time, you get upgraded to first class, you land, you get a upgrade to your taxi to get to your hotel, and you get there, even if it's late or like it's not ready yet, you're still in a good mood. Like it's like, all right, cool. And then you get there and like, it's much better. So too many people are hating the journey to get to the destination, but you spend far more time on the journey than you will spend at the destination.
Yeah. Does that mean that when we're setting sort of that definition of success, that we really need to be thinking about what it's going to take to get there, because we're going to be stuck with that journey for a lot longer than we are necessarily with the destination?
Yeah, but you have to set it. I know people talk about clarity, but the problem is too many people don't have an idea of how to do the process. Like people buy planners, but have no idea how to plan. You know, like it's like, why did you buy that? So we set this arbitrary place for success. And I think the problem we have is we have our scale of success. Sometimes we give it to the world to compare, and the world is unset. Therefore, we can always feel less than. So I'm a big proponent of set your scale at home privately, what you deem to be great. So if someone does try and attack it, they have no space to. And then it's like, for me, I'm a metaphor guy. I'm a man of faith. I don't know why metaphors has become part of who I am. But if you want to make an amazing roof, you better have some strong pillars. There's got to be a thing supporting that. In fact, my schedule that I use is called a prop, because a prop props things up, right? It holds the scene so the play can take place. And it's a progress planner is what it is. But the reality is, like, a lot of people spend so much time on what this thing's going to be, but they never spend the time on the individual small, minute stages. And then what happens, unfortunately, is they enter into this journey and they run into a lake that they have no plan to cross. And all they can think of is, turn around and go back. Whereas if they had a plan of like, you know what, I might have to cross that lake. I'm going to bring a rope or a ladder, or they can show up to the same river that guy did, but now I have a plan. And even if they don't have a perfect plan, they have experience planning. And whenever I work with clients, a big thing to work on is like, how do we mitigate future situations we might run into, so that as you get to the point of that successful journey, like you can stay on the course longer. And then how do I fall in love with that? Like, how do I fall in love with something I hate right now? Like, how do you make that happen? Right. And there's beauty in that. When you do that, that's how you look at people and they have like this Midas touch. Why is it that everything that guy touches works? Well, it's who he is. It's just the natural flow of who he is or she is.
So how does one fall in, like, that concept is just amazing. How does one fall in love with the thing that they hate to do? How do you get past that? How do you make that a part of who you are?
Yeah, well, it goes to the root of what you create creates you, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about, like for me, I was a high school football player years ago, and I had grew up in foster care. So I wasn't a good internal feeling person. I thought I wasn't very good. Mom gave me away, all this crazy stuff. Yeah. So football, I started out by being very unconfident inside. And then at one point I had this click over. I was like, I want to be great. So I started putting work into lifting weights, running routes, and building a body. I created a strong body that created this internal animal that would not let me lose to anybody. And so the creation created the Anthony, and he showed up and he made plays and he got a scholarship, played in the NFL, all this great stuff. And it's no different than, a person that's running a business. You have to create certain things. And then the more you do it, we as humans have what's called investment bias. The more I give, I want a return. And for us, the more I give of my time, I want the return of showing up and getting the outcome. So we'll fight for that outcome when the moment comes. And so what it really boils down to is the reason we have pain when entering something new, for the most part, is I try this thing and I'm immediately met with, I suck. I'm not very good at this. And that comes with an emotional pain of like a wall. And then what most people don't do is they don't re-expose themselves to it. Yeah. So they fall back and they just make an excuse to redivert or procrastinate. And now they don't get that time in there. They don't get the investment bias, but they tried it once and they steer clear of it. And then maybe, 4 months down the road, they try it again. Well, they forgot for the most part, everything that went wrong. So they try to get and fail again. Like, it's not for me. The people who win go into it knowing they're going to fail at some point. There's actually 6 levels of failure. We don't got to go into it. But the top one's like, it's the end of the world. Bottom one's like, I expected it to. Yeah. And if you pick a lower one and put it up too high, you kill your ability to learn from it. So I'm a proponent of go into it. It's going to hurt. That's why you have this pain of it. And then you do it. And then you expect to learn and you go re-examine what's going on and do it again. And the more you do that, the idea is like, I'm not going in to feel crappy. I'm going in to find a way to feel better. And now I start learning and I get better and I get more dialed in. And then over time, I get this creation, I get this investment bias. And now that's who I am. Like if you wanted to, whittle a chair and you never touched wood or a knife, the first time you're gonna feel a little bit like, I can't whittle a chair, it broke when I thought. But 10,000 chairs in, like, I'm a chair whittler, damn it. That's what I do. And so that's the journey everyone has always taken anywhere in their life. Yes, some people are more predisposed to be better at something. Carol Dweck's fixed mindset growth. But the reality is the majority of us are growth mindset. You have to be to climb. And that's the psychology of why so many people don't attain success. It's not rocket science. It's just they're not staying in the fire long enough to harden.
Well, and that they tried to figure out a way to avoid the fire to begin with. I mean, I think you've called out like this really important piece here, which is the journey. And, it's easy to say, okay, so there's a journey on the way there, make sure you enjoy it. But the journey is meant to be challenging. It's meant to be difficult. I mean, I know I talk with a lot of business owners that we help grow, and, when they move the needle pretty significantly to jump into that 7-figure spot, it's not comfortable, and I'll get on a lot of calls with a lot of business owners that are like, you know what, Frank, I just don't feel like this is me. Like this doesn't feel right. And I'm like, did you think it was? Like you weren't a 7-figure business owner when you started this thing. Yeah. Did you think it was going to feel the same or that it was going to be comfortable? And I do think that we have this expectation that there's comfort in change, and there isn't. It's usually hard.
Yeah, it's not. And I'm not even a big fan of change. I'm a big fan of shift. And it's funny you said I have a program called 7-Figure Identity, because it's legitimately that's what it is. Yeah. When I look at people and they say I don't feel like that, that's definitive. Like that's not who I am just yet. There's contention there. Right. The reason a lot of strategies don't work for people is if there's 10 steps, at step 5 they're like, it's not who I am, and they don't do it. Yet that one had to be met to get to 6, 7, and 8. You can't go around it. Right. And the majority of my work is getting someone to protect an identity that is the one that does that thing. When you have people that say like, I've tried my best, it's hard, doesn't feel right. What I look at is what's the problem with what's going on in their head when it comes to that moment. And there are certain people who they sit over here and they're this person trying to do those things and they hit this emotional wall. And there's a person that does it. And it's like, why are they so easy for them? And what it is, from a neuroscience standpoint, it's like we have these decision tanks. Like that's why Steve Jobs was a turtleneck. Like used to, like that's it. I'm just wearing a turtleneck. I don't got to choose anything else. Yeah. And what happens is the more decisions I make, I get the fatigue. And if I wake up in the morning and say, well, do I make that call? Do I put that email out? Do I talk to this person? Do I create this? And I'm deciding to, well, by 12 o'clock, my decision tank is empty.
Right.
Whereas if it's who I am, I just make the email. I just make the call. No, I get that workout in. I talk to that person. That's just what I do. Well, by the time 12 o'clock hits, I got a half a tank still really, and I'm rolling. Whereas you're dead right now. Yeah. And so when you look at that as a real life example for a lot of people, it's like, well, then how do I get there? And it's really boils down to the creates you. That's the identity you create, and you protect it with what I call your ego armor. Like if you think about certain things, if I challenged you on something that you've done for all your life, you'd be like, no, like so I am Frank. I got this covered, bro. Right. And what happens is that armor, it's the ego is not as bad a thing as we think. The ego we see show up and like, I don't need any help. I got this. No, you should leave me alone. But it also showed up for me as an NFL football player. My ego said, no, I got to get my workout. I got to get the lift and I got to eat right. Mom, no, I take care of my kids. I get them there. I pick them up. I kiss their boo-boos. There's an action where that protects the identity I've created for myself. And not enough people have spent the time to create the identity that the ego armor will protect. There's too many chinks in the armor. Yeah. Therefore, stuff pops in, they procrastinate, they feel bad about themselves. And so the really bigger picture of what we're talking about is like, how do you get to the point of building a process that you can follow that has steps that I execute with a structure to go through that creation aspect to come out in the backside and go, no, I'm a 7-figure business owner. I do these things. This is who I am. Right. And that used to overwhelm me, but now it's my typical Tuesday.
Yeah. And this element of identity that you talk about, it hit me really hard. I was reading a book a couple of months ago called Atomic Habits, and it specifically talks about creating an identity around the thing that you're trying to build, and you've got to almost do that first, because otherwise you will get lost along the way. You'll get stuck thinking, I'm not going to do that. You'll be making decisions as opposed to, this is who I am. This is just what I do. So that's brilliant stuff. I love that. I want to pivot a little bit to talk about the coaching work that you do. So who typically are you working with in your business right now?
Yep. So entrepreneurs and executives. I have the kind of offshoot of athletes turn entrepreneur and some moms and dads that kind of want to use the work. But the majority of where we work with individuals is those who are trying to create something special in the world.
Great. And do they usually have a particular goal in mind when they come to you, or is some of the work that you do helping them craft this identity and where they want to go?
Yeah.
How clear of a picture do people usually have when they come to you?
Well, there's twofold. One is a person that's like, I just want to get my business running. And so there is a off segment that's teaching people the structure of how I develop a business from idea to business. The majority of people, however, are more in the personal development realm. Nowadays, we don't have a problem with information and strategies like in tools. There's just too much. Like I call it the tool technique technician, the tripod of what you'll create. Typical tripod has a camera. The tripod of life is what you'll create. You know, it's literally like the fruits of your labor. And we have tools and techniques, and there's a plethora of them, overwhelming amounts. And the problem is not that the tool or technique doesn't work. We think it is like, oh, I tried that thing. And well, why is it that Susan, who has the same access to the same program, has the same courses, make it 5 times as much as you? Yeah. It's not that it's the technician, tool technique technician. And so I spend time on the technician and getting them to do the things that will move the needle without them draining their soul while doing it. And it's a flow to get into it. But there's processes, there's structure you have to break them through. And when you do it, it's not just whole like lofty woo-woo stuff. Like it's definitive tech. I'm a football guy. Like I like structure and tactics. And so whenever I start working people through the process, a lot of it's like them realizing, holy crap, I've had access to this the whole time. Because think about a strategy. This is why I noticed strategies and tools. Somebody made them. Who made them? Well, some guy or some girl's like, this is the problem. I'm of the identity of figure this stinking thing out. They go out, they come back, say, hey, here's the 10 steps of what I did. Go do this. Yeah. So what if you were a person that was of identity that made a strategy? Like what if you were at that different tick of how you operate, how you see problems? You would be able to honestly easily take a strategy and apply it or fill gaps if you see one, and then you'd be a person creating them. So a lot of my work is getting people to get to that level of a nuance in how they think, because those are the successful people. If you hang out with successful people, you find, in your realm, you find they just do and say and think differently, and you just sit quiet. You're like, oh, I didn't even know that's how I should think. And that's what I try to get people to grasp is you got to become that where you don't think about it. Like who you are is who you are where you're not thinking about who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do
that's right.
That person to do the work.
Yeah. That I love that. That's a great, I think we found your quote for the, for the episode. That's who you are is who you are. We're now thinking about who you are. That's great. So many people who are in the sort of development, personal development, motivational coaching space, they run into similar problems over and over again, where a lot of times their clients, they'll have, they'll have difficulties, they'll fall back, they'll doubt themselves, they'll, jump into a journey and then it's almost like jumping into the pool and go, wait a minute, I don't know how to swim. What am I doing in this pool? How do you handle that? When you've got clients who kind of get freaked out by their own commitment level, what are some of the things that you've built into your practice to help some of those people through those challenging times?
It's all expectations, man. I hate gray areas. I do not do well with it, and I never find that my clients do either. So the moment we begin, I am crystal clear. I don't overpromise. I over-deliver. But I am transparently clear about how it's going to feel. It's like running a race. In the beginning, you're excited, you're just invested in something. It's great. In the middle of the race, you're like, why the hell am I running this race? Everything hurts. At the end of it, you're like, oh, I crossed the finish line. Yeah, you celebrate. Yeah. You'll even do it again someday, Yeah, right. So the thing for me is to give people that expectation of, look, we're trying to get to the point, I call them identity walls. We're trying to get to the point we find the thing that's stopping you. And the way that I work is I work through the stuff they already want to do. It's not like I do some separate work and then we come over here and do your work. It's created simultaneously. We're just going to figure out what to do and why to do it. So you're going to move the needle while we're helping you shift this identity. But the reality is I set the intention early, and everybody should with their clients. So when they get that roadblock, they can say, hey, remember when we first started like 4 weeks ago? This is what I was talking about.
Yep.
So it doesn't sideswipe them. If not, it's going to be a problem. But if you tell them, hey, we're going to go in this path here, at a certain point, there's going to be, a river, and you have to hop in and swim through this damn thing. It's better than walking up to the river and be like, hey, get in. Like, whoa.
You didn't say anything about this river. Yeah.
Expectations, man. It's just, if you can remove the gray, and it doesn't happen the first time. It may not happen the first time. Typically, it's you start, you learn, and you change it for the next person, and the next person, the next person. Right. It's all about refinement over time.
That's great. I mean, one of the most important elements of onboarding is this expectation setting. And so many people don't do it because they're so excited about starting with a new client and they don't want to deliver any bad news. They don't want to be like, oh, and by the way, it's going to get hard. Oh, no, it's all happy and everything's wonderful. But I think we do our clients a great disservice when we don't set them up for, hey, by the way, we're hiking up this mountain. I'm letting you know, about halfway through, it's going to get a tough climb. I just let you know, there's this spot, everyone gets stuck, and just letting you know about it. We'll get through it. It'll be fine. But when you get there, don't be surprised. That's amazing. It's a great strategy.
It helps your business grow too. Because if you think about my business primarily is a word of mouth business. Most coaches are, and we market obviously, but it's I like the ones that are word of mouth. Yeah. But the thing is, if I have a client who's pissed at me towards the end, I'm not getting that testimonial referral. Right. So if I want to help myself in the very beginning. Yes, you don't want to give them bad news, but you want to be honest. That's your job as a coach. Tell them what they need to hear. Yeah. So tell them. Then when you reach that, you help them overcome that. And now they're like, oh my gosh, this person's awesome. They had that positive feel with you. And then they'll tell their friends about you.
Well, again, I think it all comes down to where you set the you set the theme at the beginning when you talked about journey. Because if we're a coach and we're only focused on outcomes, then we're going to sort of have blinders on for the journey. We're not even going to think about the journey. And of course the journey is going to be challenging, but if we think of our role as guiding people through that journey and getting them to like the journey, then we do have to think about all of the mileposts on the way, the intermediate pieces, and they're not all going to be fun and pleasant.
So and one of the big things that I wish more coaches did this. They don't know. They talk about it, but don't. It's like systems and processes and frameworks. Yep. So you know when they're coming. So maybe you don't tell them about it in the very beginning, but maybe as you get to step 6 of 15, you're like, hey, the next 2 steps are going to be difficult because you've seen it happen. So it also alleviates stress on you to have to think of what you're doing in each coaching session or content or whatever it is. And I know where everybody's at any point in time if I talk to them. So creating a framework that you follow and refine the framework. If you go off topic, cool, take a note, bring it into the main program, but that'll allow you to be able to get those things mitigated well in advance. So maybe the thing that you did see becoming a headache early on, you can, engineer it out. So the next 10 people never even have to be told that because they aren't going to experience that, right? So it's a lot of thinking on the fly still.
Yeah, that is true. And systems and frameworks, you're speaking my love language, I guess.
There you go. Yeah.
So
that's football brain, man. I like to do things.
Well, I wish I had played any decent football, but that's not. I wasn't. I was a runner, so I couldn't catch. Anyway, hey man, thanks so much for being with us. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I would love to continue the conversation, but you've been really gracious with your time so far and just letting us have this interview. One last question, though, before we take off. For those people who want to connect with you, want to learn more about what you do, coaching work, what's a good way for them to connect?
Yeah, if you go to at Anthony Trucks on Instagram, or if you go to slowergo.co, there's a checklist you can download that allow you to kind of see where you fit. There's 2 types of identities. And if you figure out which one you are, it'll help you determine what the next stages are for you to find success.
Awesome. That's thank you. Both of those links are under the video or on the show notes page. If you're out and about listening to this, come on back to the show notes page and click on through to connect with Anthony. Thanks so much for being with us, man. It was a great, great conversation. I really, really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Seriously.
Yeah. And thank you for being with us on the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I've been your host, Frank Bria. Just a quick reminder about the high ticket program Core Offer Black Book. Contains more than 60 pages of standard operating procedures on how to run your coaching, consulting, or expert-based service business. You can download that for free at the show's homepage, 6to7.show. That is 6to7.show for your free Black Book. And thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you on the next episode of 6 to 7 Figure Show. Bye.